Ano ai me ke aloha ia kākou pakahi a pau. Welcome to tonight's Up Late ʻŌpio panel. My name is Kaipo Leopoldino. I am a teacher at St. Louis School, and I'm so very excited to be with all of you folks here, co-moderating with my very good friend.
Aloha mai kākou. I am Andrew Lai. I am the Student Leadership Activities Director at Kamehameha Schools, Kapaa Lama, and I too am super thrilled to be here with you folks. Today we are joined by 9 talented students from across the Pai'aina who are going to share their mana'o with you folks and are hopefully going to solve the problems of the world.
Now, if you're just jumping in with us, coming off of the KHON Candidate Forum, welcome. You are in for a treat because these young minds are going to give us the fresh perspective that we need.
Absolutely. You know, we're turning on the spotlight and handing over the mic to them because it's time to hear from our young people. You know, as Kumu, it's easy for us to envision a future that we want for them. It's easy for us to hope for things for them, but it is up to them to actually bring those hopes to fruition. So when we envision a future for every generation and all of Hawaii where they can be civically engaged, because that's where it starts, is by going out and voting. You don't like how things are, then vote. Otherwise, be quiet, right? That's really how it goes. No vote, no grumble, is that old saying. So anyway, before we begin, let's meet our participants. Kaipo?
All right, so these participants are going to be sharing with us their name, what grade they're in, what school they go to, where they live, where they're from, and their aspirations. No laila e olo e aipono ka moku hiki ia oi ke ho'omaka.
E oko e nā kupuna, nā mākua, nā ʻŌpio a me ka lehulehu. O wauno o aipono ka moku, no pana ewa Hawaii mai au. He haumana o ki kula o Nāwahi o ka lani o pū. A o kau mai hana, mai uhane, o e hoi ka hoi ia o ka onai hana ahupa a ma Hawaii nei. A me ka lokai o ka hana mana kaiaulu, e like me ki kālepa ana aku. Ka houlu ia o kuka ko mea e iho no ma nei aina. A me ke ola oi o ko lelo Hawaii mana hana apau. Aloha oko.
Mahalo nui e aipono. Hema, go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hello, mai kākou, o Hema Watson ko inoa, no ho'au I kuli o o. My school is Halau Kumana. I'm in 10th grade. My dream is to be a leader in Hawaii. So whether that be a mayor or governor or any other kind of politician or someone who leads Are Lāhui, I would like to be that.
Mahalo nui e Hema, e olu le ohu.
Aloha mai kākou, o leo huchan ko o inoa, no hoa o mako mokupuni o Kauai, he pukanao mai ke kula o Kawaikini, a kana he haumana no ma ke kula o ka piolani ma o ahuki o manawa, ke ho'o maka nei au I ko'u mekia ma ka ho'ona o au ma ka pai kula ki e, hoi wau e pai I na ʻŌpio o Hawaii ma o I ke kupuna, yeah, mahalo.
Mahalo nui e leo hu. Mahina, ko manawa, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Aloha mai kākou, o wau o Mahina, no hoʻau I Kanaeokana Oahu. Hele au I ke kula kiʻekiʻe o Kamehameha Kapaa Lama. I'm a senior, and my dream for Hawaii, or how I would like to participate in that dream, is to own my own business one day and hopefully benefit Are Lāhui in that manner.
Mahalo, Mahina. Now we have 2 Sophias here with us, and we're going to start off with Sophia S.
Aloha pumehana kākou, o wau o Sophia Hinala Astafobin, noho kahului Maui mai au. I am a 12th grader at Kamehameha Schools, Maui, and my aspiration in life is to own my own marketing agency and bring it back to Hawaii and support small local businesses in that sense.
Mahalo, Sophia S. And Sophia P.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Perry. I'm from Waikouka on the Big Island, and I'm a senior at Kamehameha Schools Hawaii campus. My dream is to pursue a career in journalism. I think one way that we can that we can empower other people is through education. And so through writing and communication, we can help others to really educate themselves and have an informed opinion. And hopefully as a journalist, I'll be able to help others voice those opinions.
Mahalo nui, Sophia. Noah, go ahead, brother.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Noah Candelario. I'm a senior at Kailua High School at Kailua, Oahu, and a field of interest / study I am going to be going into is political science.
Mahalo, Noah. Up next, we have Genesis.
Aloha, o Genesis Kapua Ko'i Noa. I represent Waina High School. I'm from Ma'ili. I am in 11th grade. In the future, I would like to help people find their voices and fight for what's right.
Mahalo nui and Maui.
Velina pumehana kākou o Maui ia Kepa Guerrero ko'u inoa. No ka halu'u ahu mai au, ai au ma ka papa umi kumakahi ma ke kula o Kanalui. No laila, kekahi pahu hopu o'u, no ka lāhui, no ka pai aina, no ka Hawai'i nei, o ia no ka ho'oi kaika, ka ho'o pai kia mana o ka aloha aina, ka malama i ka aina. Ka lilo I alaka'i ma ko kākou lāhui, I ho'oi kaika I ka lāhui.
Mahalo nui and mahalo for all of you for being.
Yep, mahalo nui indeed. Okay, here's we get into the good part of the show today, folks. So we're gonna give you some ground rules first. I want to make sure that we're sharing freely. It should be a safe place and a safe space where you are free to share us your manao and share with us how you feel, and then with the questions that we ask. But let others talk and keep to the point. If you have manao that you want to jump in, be considerate, raise your hand. Today we're going to focus on some issues that came up during the candidate forum that some of you may have watched, including those that were raised, some questions that were raised by students as well.
And as Mr. Lai said, this is a safe space, and for everybody who's watching, we want to promote these young students' perspective, and we want to value that, but we also want to just remind everybody that the opinions that are shared tonight are the opinions of these haumana, and they are not reflected of the institutions that they represent.
All right. On that note, let's get to it. First question. First question is to set the scene. Over the last several years, we've seen young people mobilize globally on especially in very recent times, on social justice issues like climate change, social inequity, criminal justice reform, the Native Hawaiian rights. Why are you seeing young people getting involved? Why are young people getting involved in those things now? Sophia?
I think that the people of our generation are really lucky to live in a time where it's so easy to get involved. We have access to so many different resources, every single article, video, picture on the internet. And we also have a more direct access to our politicians. So what we've seen, for example, tonight in our town hall is we got to watch a broadcast of all of these people sharing their platforms with us. And so we can make educated choices as voters, but also just as citizens, it's so easy for us to get educated and to be informed, and then to use our personal platforms to educate other people. So we can use our Instagram, our Facebook, and even like our personal networking to help spread the word to other people. So I think really the answer is just that it's so much easier now than it ever was before.
Yes, Noah, go ahead.
I do agree with what Sophia said, and I want to expand on that. Yes, because the mobilization of youth civic activity has been increasing over the past years is yes, because of social media and the increased access to communications. But I do want to add on something very important, is that my generation, or the youth in general, know that we don't have a lot of time, for many of the issues that face us today, such as climate change, right? We, as youth, we learn from history classes that, wow, this has been going on for years, why can't it be us to fix it? And I say where the technology is beautiful because of that.
Let me throw a follow-up in there while some of you are thinking about your answer you may have, because social media has been a hot topic here, as far as Sophia and Noah have mentioned. And they both mentioned that it's a great thing. Is it also potentially a bad thing? Mahina?
One of the main issues I've seen come up with social media and politics, I do agree that it's really great for getting people educated and aware of the issues, especially because so many of those issues are so prevalent to our lives and many people can relate to them. And as we get older, they become nearer to us. They aren't so far off and far away. But a definite downside to being on social media with everything political and whatnot is that the information is so quick and accessible, and people are so quick to believe what they see on social media that it can lead to a herd mentality at times. And people, while they may think that they're educating themselves, they aren't fact checking. They aren't making sure that what they see is true. And there is so much influence from other people on social media that oftentimes I don't think that a lot of people think for themselves more so as they follow what other people think, which I think is a downside to social media.
Oh. Yes, Hema.
To follow up on Mahina, I do think that our use of social media, while it has its benefits of getting us educated and getting information out to an extent that's never been seen before, right? The youth of today has so much information at their fingertips, so much more than what they used to have. But I feel like sometimes it can desensitize the young viewers to all these topics and make it seem like not as important as it truly is. And not to play into our president's words or anything, but there is lots of false news, not exactly mainstream, but just articles written by dudes in the internet made from nowhere. So, and people will believe them and work off of their biases. So, and not much care is taken by themselves to fact check themselves. So truly, it's an age of information so prevalent that it's like trying to swim through rapids. You have to really navigate the waters to find a positive way to influence yourself.
Mahalo. Any last thoughts before we move on to the next question? Again, this is more along the lines of why are we seeing young people getting involved now with all the given things that are going on? Sophia S.
I just wanted to add to the initial question, and I just believe that more of our ʻŌpio are involved now because they truly care about their future. That's the whole idea around this, right? It's to get involved now so that way we can predict our own future. We dictate our own future. And I think that's also adds to why we all want to participate in this, because we can see it for ourselves that if we just stand by and let other people make decisions for us, then we're left with what? So I think that's another reason, is because we personally care as a generation about our futures and for the future generations after us. So I just wanted to add my thoughts to that.
Mahalo nui, Sophia. Anybody else want to add their thoughts? I see Le'ohu.
Aloha. Yeah, I agree with what Sophia was saying about how, we want to be able to, we as ʻŌpio want to put our futures in our own hands, and we are able to do that through, becoming involved and knowing what is happening with leadership and, voicing our opinions and things. And also just like the things that we've been living through now, a lot of us know of what's happening with TNT, and kind of going through a movement like that, I think has helped to awaken a lot of ʻŌpio. It was kind of like our own renaissance, and just reflecting back on stories that I've heard from like my kupuna about the kind of leadership they came up with those eras and the awakening, of being proud of being Hawaiian again. And I think that's starting to become prevalent much in the younger generations. And now we, like what Mahina and Sophia and Noah were saying, we have all these technology platforms that support, our learning and knowing what's going on in our communities and with Hawaiian issues. So I think that all just plays into why ʻŌpio are becoming more engaged now. Mahalo.
Awesome. Yes, thank you very much. I like that. So the basic theme, if I'm hearing you folks correct, is you don't know where you're going unless you first know where you've been. Yeah? Okay, all right, cool. Unless anybody's got anything burning they want to say, let's move on to the next one.
All right, so our next question is, it's centered around something that was talked about a lot in our candidate forum right before this panela, and that's about the coronavirus. And so since the start of the pandemic, tourism has been put on hold, and many are wondering how we can diversify and jumpstart Hawaii's economy. Do we need to reimagine Hawaii's economy, and if so, how? Hema.
Hola. The model we've been following for tourism for however long it came about is destructive, and it is it's like a parasite to Hawaii. It has brought much wealth to us, definitely. It's our main driver for our economy. However, tourism kills tourism. The more people come here, the less people want to come here. And it also drives out the locals, right? They build all these new places, all these new condos, all these new hotels, apartments for all the people that are coming in. And then some decide to stay. And so less and less and less of the people that were here before are here or have places to be here. And it also, it's so bad for us. It's so bad for us. It stifles our local businesses. It promotes the mocking of our culture in some places. It truly has not been something that has been great for us. Now we will always have tourism because we're beautiful islands. I understand that. But the kind of tourism we promote has killed our coral reefs in Waikiki, and we blew those up, have created all these things, these hotels on our beachfronts, which are eroding our beaches, have created, our aquifers draining. Now that's military as well, but tourism, they're using all our water as well. And it's like, why are all these people coming here? They don't even, half of them won't even live here. And then they'll stay here, they'll use up all of our resources and then leave, like aku birds. It's something we need to fix. And we need to find different ways and regenerative ways, either cyclical, that goes back into our economy, or just straight up go away from tourism. We can't survive without these matching ships coming in. What if one gets stuck in a storm? Then we all pass away because we don't have any food, or half of us plus, because there's no food here for a month now because the match ship's gonna come. Oh, too bad. Not everybody can hunt big. So we need to find ways. We had ranches before, we had factories before, we had all these things. They're gone now because we focus on tourism so much. We put all our interests in foreign when we should really be focusing on domestic. It's kind of sad, but I'll let someone else speak.
So, I see a lot of hands going up. Aipono, I'm going to go to you, and then right after that, I'm going to jump to Sophia. S.
O kia wao ka mai corona o manawa he wā kupona keia no ka imi a kukulu I Onehana Ka Lāhui, ka ekonomia hou no koka ko Hawaii. O iei, o koka ko mea ai, mai waho mai, kana iwa pakaneka oi mai waho mai. He koi, he haa koi keia, ka hoiho I koka ko mole, o ia hoi ka Onehana mahi ai ma Hawaii nei. O Hawaii he aina momona, o ka mahi ai, he hana kuuna o koka ko poe kupuna I hiki na ʻŌpio a mena makua ke hana pū ka lokahi. Ua manawa ma kia wā o ka mai, ua hiki ka ohana ke pili me na ʻŌpio ke kai. Na makua me na ʻŌpio ua hiki ke hana pū ma ka mala. He wā hikaloi keia. Ka imi I nā ala e hoi kai ko Ka Lāhui. I mau ai ko Ka Lāhui I pono ole e kaukai ma luna o ke kahi no ko kako mea ai, no ko kako pono o ke ola. E imi kako I nā ala, e hoi kaikai ko kākou one hana mahi ai. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui e pono. Sophia S.
So to answer this question about diversifying our economy, it's been brought up as many times, you've heard it all over the news. And I think that because, you know, as humans, we're always evolving. So if we're not like changing our economy or improving our economy or reimagining it, then how are we supposed to move forward if we're not doing those things? And as far as diversifying and stepping away from tourism, as much as a challenge as it will be, and it's a long process, it's not just going to happen overnight because we have been, you know, depending on it for so long. I think, yes, tourism will still be here, but as far as what type of tourism, like educational tourism, ecotourism, we can look to those types of, you know, things to change up our economy and improve it and keep going forward with it, just to keep evolving in that sense. So that's all I have to add.
I saw you was raising your hand. Himana okau.
I just wanted to talk about like what Aipono was talking about and what Hema was talking about a little bit too, about going back to agriculture. And yeah, we have this, you know, Aina Pula Pula here, and we have all the resources we need that we could go back to agriculture, but not just going back to agriculture, but thinking of like sustainable ways, because we all know like the effects of the sugarcane era, how many people are dealing with that diversion of water, right? So we gotta think of unique ways that we can be sustainable in our farming, if we're gonna use that to diversify our economy. And I think that the key is just to look back at the ways of farming of our kupuna. So if we look at like the lo'i system with makas, coming in from the Ka Hawai and then feeding back out to the Ka Hawai, it's sustainable. Everything is in a circle, it comes in and goes out. So yeah, thinking of these new ways of diversifying our economy, but also think about long-term and sustainable ways that are going to be good for our aina and our poe as a whole. So mahalo.
Mahalo le ohu. Genesis, I saw your hand was up. Do you want to share something?
Hi, with our diversifying, I think people having their own foods and resources is better than depending on other people. And for tourism, so many people lost their jobs during this pandemic because we depend on the tourists, you know. So I feel like we need better works that sustain our people.
Mahalo nui, Genesis. No, I saw that you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from everybody is that relying on tourism was a disaster. So, and I agree. It's just poor economic planning by putting all your chips into tourism. It's plain and simple. It's just terrible economic. So how do we go from here? Well, we're Hawaii. Let's start from Hawaii, okay? The Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian people had a sustainable lifestyle for generations on generations. Why don't we use Hawaiian education, wayfinding, sustainable agriculture, their kind of city development to develop Hawaii? And in my opinion, we need to get rid of the Jones Act. That's number one. And number two, we need to increase on education funding. Not just, because I'm a public school kid, okay? And at the public school level, it's a free-for-all, okay, to try to succeed. That's just how it is, and that's facts, okay? I have cousins at private school institution, and they're getting higher quality education at the sense that it is modernized. We need to increase the funding of public education and modernize it to today's standards, such as getting laptops for everybody. Not every kid at our schools have a Chromebook because of this time, right? And I'm one of the fortunate ones to have one. So now we're fighting for resources for something simple as a Chromebook. So we need to increase education so we can stop the future brain drain of Hawaii kids going to the mainland to study for school. Now I love UH Manoa, but I'm gonna be going away for the mainland because I personally believe that mainland have better opportunities for me. Okay. How can our schools, you know, from the collegiate level to under, restore trust in their students, in their education system? That's very complicated. But I believe increasing education emphasis will help Hawaii in the long run in diversifying the economy, to invest in, you know, tech jobs. What if we have a Tesla headquarters down here? Elon Musk moves his Tesla. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, thank you.
What I'm loving about everyone's mana'o is kind of adhering to the sense of ho'i ka piko, yeah, looking to what we've done in the past, right? I'm gonna let Mahina talk, and then we will see where we stand in our questions. Mahina?
Yeah. So I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm a lover of plants and agriculture. My dad actually made a mala in our backyard. We have an aquaponic system, and I know that there's a huge focus right now on moving our economy, I suppose, as to agriculture as an option. But I don't think that focusing on tourism is necessarily a bad thing, because I think what people are forgetting is that tourism can evolve too, to include education about Hawaii's culture or other things. And so evolving tourism to be accountable for, as Hema mentioned, things about our land and our people and our resources can be done. And I think that it would be foolish of us to place our eggs in another basket, such as agriculture, which can easily be affected by other things in our world, such as natural disasters and other things, especially with climate change is such a big issue right now. And what studies have found recently actually is that we don't have enough land and workers to supply food and agriculture for ourselves in a sustainable manner. I'm all for diversifying the economy, but I don't think that we should place such a huge focus on moving away from tourism and moving towards things like agriculture, and being mindful of all our options and evolving the options that we already have right now.
Mahalo nui, Mahina. We're gonna go to Maui, and then we're gonna go to Mr. Lai for the next question.
So, you know, what I have to say is, going off of what everyone else had to say and just elaborating a little bit more, you know, Native Hawaiian education, maikai, agriculture, maikai, ikeo kapuna, maikai. And I see, you know, you look back and you step back and you look at all of these things, and you have to just find the equal or find the balance between all of them. Because, I mean, we look at the past and we see that our kupuna, farming the ocean, Lokoia sustained us for many generations. Lo'ikalo sustained us for many generations. And even till this day, we have Kanaka Maoli still sustaining our culture. But we just have to find the balance between it all.
Wow. Yeah, I concur with everything you folks are saying. You know, Noah, I think, struck it on the head for me, but that's a totally different question, and I don't want to head in that direction because for the sake of time, but you're absolutely right. We have generations of kids that are leaving the Aina, our home, because they just can't sustain themselves here, and that's really, really sad. So good on you folks for hitting some of those very important topics. Okay, let's move along. We're going to pull this one from a student question we heard during the Congressional District 2 Forum for the next discussion item here. There have been increased calls to recognize and respect Hawaiian culture, rights, and interests. For example, Kukia Imauna, the state Supreme Court case regarding access to Hawaiian language, immersion education. How can Hawaii ensure that the culture, rights, and interests of Native Hawaiians are respected? Go ahead, Hema, and then Noah.
So I think it just should be automatic, right? Hawaiians were here in the beginning, right? And then people came. And I think it should be automatic that you should be, hey, these guys were here first. You know, we should respect who they are and not just crush them, as many people tended to do. I think one way to preserve, right? Now this is just me and my olelo, but olelo Hawaii is the key to our culture, right? Hula is nice, right? Hula is nice. and our oli is great, you know, and on all those practices, and our heo look lovely. But without our language, it all means nothing. So we need to restore our language in a way that where we almost are bilingual. We know Hawaiian, and if not, maybe not everybody in the entire state knows Hawaiian, but it needs to be important. Right now, it's secondary, even though it's a first language. It's a first language in a way. We got that in. Is it really though? Because I remember when I used to go to public school, the Hawaiian they taught us, the hula, barely anything. The hula we got, it was cool depending on what school we got. Do you think the normal public school student, which is most of Hawaii's kids, do you think they get an adequate education in Hawaiian? You think they'll be able to move on in life and be able to speak Hawaiian? No. And also, no one's gonna need it anyways, because only the street signs are in Hawaiian, and you don't need to know what they mean. So we need to create a system into which we actually need to use Hawaiian. For example, in let's say in government, right? All the bills should be written in Hawaiian. All debates should be done in Hawaiian. You should know Hawaiian before you become a legislator or become some kind of person in power. Kind of like in Samoa, or it was, I cannot name the islands, but I think it was Tahiti. But you know, you needed to learn, let's say down there, French and the native language. You know both to be a politician. Why can't it be the same here? We need to know both Olelo Hawaii and English, so that it becomes important. That's what they did. They stripped Hawaiians of the importance of Olelo Hawaii. No one teaches Hawaiian in books. None of our books are in Hawaiian that are actually important. No one teaches math, science, none of that in Hawaiian. We have English, but do we have Hawaiian class? If we do people really learn? You know, why aren't we using it in our jobs? Why aren't we using it when we do exchanges? Why aren't we using it in business exchanges? Why aren't we using it to write documents, to write forms, to write legal papers? It's lost its use. So we need to put back use into the language, so that when everyone knows Hawaiian, right? We'll all know the kauna behind the words. We'll all know everything that's actually important. And so then we can let people know, hey, this is what we want you to respect. You know, we'll actually know the Okina goes there, the Kākou is over this letter, you know. We'll be able to tell people that, yes, I know Hawaiian. So do all my family and my friends. We can all speak Hawaiian. We all know what this means. We all know when we do this, we're supposed to act like this. Because that's important. We almost lost it, mind you. We almost lost it. We have all this now, and even that's a small of what we used to have. But we almost lost it. It was almost gone. So we need to, hold on to it.
Let me restate the question before we jump to Noah, then Mahina, and then I see Aipono's hand up. How can Hawaii ensure that the culture, rights, and interests of Native Hawaiians continue to be respected? Noah?
First of all, I want to say it how it is. I believe all cultures, Hawaiian, Portuguese, it doesn't matter. It should all be respected. That's plain value. Okay, I'm part Native Hawaiian myself, and I'm not seen as Native Hawaiian, and I'm not part. And the Hawaiian community in my community did not accept me as the Hawaiian culture. Now, I'm not going to let that shape that into a negative narrative, but the one thing that we can promote Hawaiian culture, okay, is by changing the laws, right? Hema, the reason why, okay, Hawaiian became now a second, in actuality, fifth language, okay, is because of the Common Core system that's been set up by the national government, okay? Now, I'm registered as a Democrat, but I'm sticking with the Republican case that getting rid of the Common Core and letting the states decide on what they want to teach in schools would help the kids more effectively. And thus, getting rid of the Common Core will allow more freedom of Hawaiian expression and culture. You know, yes, even though I was not, you know, open arms, you know, held into open arms by the Hawaiian community, I am still, and I will always be, love to learn about my culture and Hawaiian values, traditions, ways of life, you know, sustainability, and ways of thought. Because you have seen it. We have seen the Hawaiian people came from the islands of Taiwan and the Philippines. Now today, they're called they're part of the Austronesian group. Okay? And this interesting group went all the way to Hawaii. If we can study that and teach that into the school and think about, you know, like what Mr. Lai said, kumus are not all about teaching kids how to think, but how to think. Or I don't know. You get what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'm mixing it up. But they want the individual kids to think on their own. Right? And that's why I'm putting a huge emphasis on education. Okay? Because I am so proud of what St. Louis, you know, Kamehameha, from the what I can know of what they're doing, you know, to promote Hawaiian culture respectively, you know, and respecting everyone's First Amendment right to, you know, believe, you know, in Chinese culture, or whether that may be.
Okay, mahalos. And that was pretty close, no, that was pretty close. Mahina and then Aipono.
In regards to Native Hawaiian issues and rights, communication is key, right, from both sides. What I've seen is so prevalent right now is that, similar to the 8th graders' question in the vice president debate, there's so much arguing and not enough collaboration. There are prejudices on both sides, Native Hawaiian and not, that prevent people from working together on issues like these. As a Hawaiian, I've had front row seats to these issues, and common theme is that we are so focused on tradition and preserving the past that evolving to ensure that our culture can survive in a modern setting is often forgot about. We're at risk for becoming a chapter of a history textbook instead of continuing to shape the future of history. If we have access to tools that provide sustainable energy, research, and STEM opportunities for Hawaiians through developmental projects, we should be utilizing those to prepare for our future. You know, King Kauikeaui said, "Let my kingdom be a kingdom of learning. Heopuni ko'u palapala." So let's continue to follow that. Let's not isolate ourselves, but collaborate with others, native or not. That's what is missing in the success of the forwarding of Hawaiian culture in the Lāhui, in my opinion.
Mahalo nui. Aipono?
No ko lalo Hawaii, ua ike maka wau ke ola nei ko lalo Hawaii. Mai ka pai, pepe a hiki aku i nā pai kulanui. Hawaiian language is living through the babies, through punana leo, through hi pepe, all the way to kakula kele kolani, through the college levels. So I think Hawaiian language is becoming more of a normality for our people. And ke ola nei ko lalo Hawaii, ke ola oi i o nei ko lalo Hawaii ma vaino ko poia po. No ka ninau, how can Hawaii ensure that the culture, rights, and interests of Native Hawaiians are respected? O ka oia i o, pona e hoa na wau ia na poia po. Pona e imi na haumana, na poe, na makua, na poia po i ka oia i o. Pona e imi. Ho oia. Our people loved knowledge, and our people always sought out the truth. And in order to respect our rights, you just have to seek out the truth, and you have to find the truth. And ke ike ko i'o, when you find the truth, e ike ana I na mea pono a me na mea kupono ole.
Yep, totally concur. Okay, one last thought. Anybody got one last thought? Yes, go ahead, Maui, and then we'll do Sophia P. And then Genesis.
So, you know, my mana'o on respect, and you know, everybody, we hear it as, oh, that's just Hawaiian style. That's Hawaiian style. You gonna make like that because your grandmother did it, your mother did it, and now you gonna do it. But this Hawaiian style, you know, that I was brought up in, it's just mutual respect. respect for one another, respect for the aina. And, you know, to ensure, you know, that cultural rights and interests of Native Hawaiians are respected, it's just that same mutual respect. If you love your brother, you're going to take care of your brother. If you love your mother, you're going to take care of your mother. And so it's like that. It's just respect between each other.
Mahalo. Sophia P.
I definitely agree with what he's saying about, and I think what it really is expanding Hawaiian culture to be more than just like actions, like it's past Hawaiian culture being like a hula or cooking an imu. It's a lifestyle. It's like the way that you treat people. It's a spirit that I think people who are Hawaiian and also people who grew up in Hawaii with respect for Hawaiians live by. And I definitely agree with what Mahina said about how, as the rest of the world, and really because we live in an American society, like as all of those things modernize and shift, we have to learn to reconcile all of our traditional learnings, cultural practices, and beliefs with modern infrastructure and modern technology and modern perspectives. And so I think we just need to learn how to apply what came from our ancestors to the world that we're living in now. And I think education is a really important way that we can do this. But at the end of the day, if we want to protect Hawaiian rights and talk about Hawaiian issues, we need leaders. And the best way for us to get those leaders is by voting and educating ourselves and finding our personal stances and then choosing the person who's going to advocate for us and articulate that. And so when we talk about a Hawaiian society where Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian rights, and Hawaiian issues are protected and prevalent, we just need to get out there and be the people advocating for those things. And it needs to be a social shift, but at the end of the day, it needs to be guided by leaders, because those are the people who are going to help legislation reflect our social beliefs.
Yeah, kaboom. Okay, Genesis.
To me, Native Hawaiian rights are what makes our lives easier and better. It makes people who they are, and it gives access for them to grow foods, just anything to help them not depend on anybody else. And it allows them to be closer to their ancestors. It allows them to live, and it allows them to call something their home, you know.
I like that. Mahalo nui. Okay, anybody else before we move on to our next topic? This is great discussion, by the way. These are some very valid and very great points that you folks are bringing up. I like that. Emma, one last thought, and then we'll move on to the next question. Go ahead.
Ka Lāhui for talking again. I just like to, on the note with Noah, that's a very controversial subject, you know, taking out Common Core, and it's both sided. You know, taking out could lead to great education, but it could also lead to, you know, kind of adequate education, because with Common Core, it gives you base structure, and without structure or leaving it up to just our government, that could go many different ways. And so we have to be very careful in how we go about that. Although I do agree that there does need to be a change. And also, as well, to your thing of not being accepted in the Hawaiian community, you know, I go to a almost entirely Hawaiian school, you know, a very, very Hawaiian culture based, not Hawaiian language, but very Hawaiian culture based. And, you know, because like I have my brothers and, you know, I look more Hale than the rest of them, that's kind of what I am there. However, just gotta know inside your na'au, inside who you are, that you are Hawaiian. No matter what people say, oh, you don't look like this, you don't look like that, you are Hawaiian, no matter what. So just keep that in mind. Huh?
I like that, and I completely agree, Hema. When I was growing up in Kanaeokana, all my family called me Professor because I went to Kamehameha and they didn't. So I was Professor. So I get it. You're right. Okay, moving on to the next one. Kaipo.
Right, at this point, actually, we are at 9:45, and I know that when we did put out the announcement, we said we were going to be from 9 o'clock to 9:45, but we did get word that we are getting tremendous engagement on our Facebook Live, and we did get the okay to stay on and talk stories until 10. But how's everybody else? Can you give me a thumbs up if all our haumana are good with till 10 o'clock? Yeah, cherry kako. Okay, here we go. Holomua. All right, so this next question is, again, going off of the coronavirus, yeah? We hear a lot of people talking, specifically teachers and adults, about distance education. You know, very rarely, though, do we hear the opinions of the haumana, yeah? How do they like it? How's it going? So right now, because of coronavirus, a lot of us have had to go to distance learning. So how do you feel about distance learning, and how do you think schools should reopen safely? All right, Noah, go ahead and start us off, brother.
First of all, I absolutely hate distance learning, but it is a necessary evil to protect, our loved ones, who may be, in the risk section of this virus. But I just want to say that, in my opinion, the teachers and the school administration had plenty, in my opinion, plenty of time to prepare their students, right? We shut down, correct me if I'm wrong, in March, okay? So no school April and May, okay? And obviously no school June and July. And that's summer. I might have an unpopular opinion, but you guys said I can be as straightforward as I can, and I will be. But in my opinion, the teachers have way too much time to prepare, okay? They already know what they're gonna teach when they're in person, right? All they had to do was prepare 1 month, okay, of online distance learning. And they were late on their response. I'm not just blaming it on the teacher, the Board of Education, and all those people in that pyramid, okay? And guess who gets the consequence of their late response? Us students. It's just unfair, right? And when I want to go talk about what I talked about earlier, about not every kid has the advantage of access to a computer. Now, I'm fortunate to have this really nice Logi camera that I just bought last week from Best Buy, right? But I don't know, does Big Island have Best Buy? How you guys get cameras, right? I'm being honest. It's just absolutely absurd. Like I said, the teachers know what they're gonna teach in person, right? And they had plenty of time to get that 1 month at least for virtual learning set up. It's just absolutely ridiculous that us students are being in the fault of late response of the usual political game that it is. Just wait until what Governor Ige has to say, or until the boss says no. Look at Kauai. Let's just say Kauai was a school, okay? I forgot the governor's last name, but I know his first name is David, okay? That's not the governor, excuse me. Mayor David knew about it, and he thought, I know the state is gonna take a long time to respond. Let's just take arms now and get Kauai prepared. Look, Kauai has 0 numbers, okay? And the debate on, well, Kauai is less developed than your island, Noah, which is Oahu. You look at Big Island, they're less developed than us, okay? No, not saying to disrespect development or not, okay? Quite frankly, I would rather live in a rural area at this point for this COVID, right? But all I gotta say is that the teachers had plenty of time to prepare the students. Thank you.
Mahalo, Noah. Mahalo. And as a Big Island boy myself, every time I claim Oahu, I got new shoes, because in Waimea, get very little shoe stores, okay? So no need to apologize, Noah. Let the pigeon fly. Express your opinion. I'm gonna bounce it to Genesis, because I believe Genesis had a mana'o to share as well, and then to Mahina.
Thank you. So first, it does get confusing. Like, it is confusing, but it does become easier, and it is boring, but then you realize it's for the best, because if you go by someone, you're not sure if they have it or not. You're not sure if they tested positive, so it only affects you and your family, and it's always good to be safe than sorry. Although we prefer to be in school, it keeps us from if it keeps us from our family being safe, like if it keeps us negative and your family being happy still, then I feel like it should be continuing, because we shouldn't just go back to school not knowing if anyone's positive or not, and we're just risking us and our family.
Mahalo nui, Genesis. Go ahead, Mahina.
I think I'm very different from most people, where I actually have been enjoying distance learning. It's allowed me to pursue more passions outside of school. I work at horse stables now. I'm doing way more activities than I would normally take on during a regular school year. So that has definitely been an upside to distance learning for me. I also like that it keeps people safe, obviously, from this virus. But I also am very aware that most people don't share the same opinion as I do, and many people learn better when they're in the classroom, because teacher-student interaction is obviously a very good thing. And some people just don't learn well on an online platform, or they don't have access to the necessary resources to learn from an online platform. I know personally my school has made an effort to bring students back to campus that need that in-person interaction, which I think is really good that they're doing it on need-based. And I know that a lot of people might not have good things to say about their teachers, but personally, I really applaud my own teachers' efforts, because I know that it's really difficult for them to navigate online teaching. I want to go on a branch and say that most teachers aren't the most tech-savvy people. And so I do really applaud and appreciate that they're putting so much effort into making sure that we do have a good school year and that we are moving forward together in a positive manner, or making the best of what we have. We just had a student forum actually at our school. We had a bunch of students come and share their concerns, and one thing that I think definitely needs to be improved in light of COVID and schooling is communication. I know it's super frustrating for a lot of people because teachers and administration aren't doing the best job at making sure that students know what's going on most of the time. I am aware that COVID is a day-by-day thing, but I know it can be really frustrating for some to not know what's going on and feel like they're in the dark. So I think more than that, beyond school, I think the government can also do a better job at communication, which is necessary.
Mahalo nui, Mahina. I'm going to shoot it over to Sophia S. And then after Sophia S, go ahead, Sophia P.
So I've been telling all my friends this, that like I hate distance learning. It's not for me. And unlike Mahina, like that's awesome that, you know, a lot of my friends too, like, yeah, they love distance learning. They like not having to like, you know, go to class and, you know, things like that. But for majority of our students, like, yes, we need that in classroom connection with the teachers and other students and learning from each other. And to kind of build off of what Mahina said, like I applaud my teachers as well. I understand that it is so difficult to be planning lessons day by day because it's always changing. It's constantly changing. If we thought scheduling was hard in person, it's even harder on online because now things can easily overlap. Things, you know, you could have a class at this time and then a class at this time, and now everybody's confused. And again, going back to communication and being transparent, it's all just something we need to work on. It's only been 2 months of school and we've learned so much from just being online for 2 months. But I know for myself personally, I can't wait to go back to school. And I think it's really important to have the information that our schools need in order to safely bring us back to school. That is so crucial and so important in order for us to transition into what our school's calling it is hybrid learning, where, you know, we're not always on campus, but we're able to go to campus to get the help we need. And I just think that having all the information and, you know, the CDC guidelines available at their fingertips to understand how we can bring these students back, because our education it's our lives right now. So focusing on that would be something that everybody should be focusing on. And that's all I have to say for that, but thank you.
I'll just build off what Sophia said. I think that learning, I think I had a really unique education, so I don't want to speak for like all the students, but in my experience, my school made a lot of pushes towards education through problem solving, collaboration, technology, a lot of things that were really hands-on. And so students are able to thrive doing those activities in the classroom, but it is really hard to give a speech online or do a group project online and learn all of those skills. So those are communication skills, collaboration, problem solving, all of those things are pretty hard to transition over to distance learning. But what I will say is that the flexibility that a distance learning schedule has given me, I've thrived academically. And so even though it might not be my personal learning style, I definitely prefer being in the classroom, and I'm the kind of learner where I like giving speeches and getting to interact and talk to people. The truth is that academically, I think the skills that we're honing in on now, so that's more writing and reading, at least in my experience, are the ones that are going to be really important, especially when we go into college. But the last thing that I want to say is that I think it needs to look different for every division. And so when you're in, for example, my mom's an elementary school teacher, and I think that when you're a young student, it's really important that you learn how to share and how to talk to people, how to have fun at recess. Like all of those experiences that you learn at school that they're missing out on now are things that we should figure out how to help students develop those kinds of skills. But at the end of the day, like Sophia and Mahina said, I really do applaud my teachers for all of their efforts, and I appreciate even just having the opportunity to explain like my perspective and getting to hear what my classmates think, because it is really difficult, and I think that they're all doing the best that they can.
Mahalo nui. So we just got 4 mana'o from the Hina side of the spectrum. We're gonna get some from the Ku side of the spectrum. We're gonna go to Maui and then to Aipono, and then we'll see where we are on our time. So Maui, ko manava.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from everyone is, distance learning can be tough, and for others, not so much. But what I experienced through this distance learning is that, it's a time for us to, be with our ohana, to make connections with our ohana, spend time with them, because, we don't know what could happen in the future. And so I take account of that, and I take the time to spend with my family. I take the time to malama my ohana, to set up that kahua. Because, from our kupuna, we learn, ke kahua mamua, mahope ke kukulu. First we got to have that foundation before we build upon it. And so, though COVID is a bad thing, and, it's affected people on a global level, there are some good aspects and positive within it. And so ways that we can stay safe and reopen schools safely is, take the precautions, keep the 6 feet, wear the mask, wear the hand sanitize, wash your hands, taking those precautions, because it's better safe than sorry.
Yeah, makia noho paano kako ua ike wau I ke koʻikoʻi o ka hoʻomanawa nui o iai pono kako e hoʻomanawa nui keia. ʻAʻole hiki ke komo wale. We have to be vigilant, and we have to be patient. We can't just jump into things real quick. And we have to mahalo I nā kumu no ko lākou imi ana I ka imi ana I ka pono no kako na haumana. Also, I think that this distance learning has given students an opportunity to prove how independent we are. And I think this distance learning helps us show how smart we are, and our ability to be able to focus in on our work, be able to find the resources we need online, and to prove how educated we are. And ike kako keia manao o kako pone mamake na ʻŌpio. We want the youth to show what they know, and I think this online learning has given youth this platform to really show what our ability is and how we're able to learn on ourselves. Mahalo.
Aloha. So, just reflecting on my experience with online learning, it's definitely been really mixed. It's not my ideal, but as Maui was saying, it's a really great opportunity for me to spend more time with my ohana. I know personally, I'm a freshman in college, and I was a little bit dreading my leaving my ohana, but this has given me an opportunity to spend more time with them. But I just wanted to, give a lot of credit to Kumus right now, and just how innovative they've been. I graduated from a Hawaiian immersion school that was really focused on Aina-based curriculum, and just thinking of how do you do that on a computer? Yeah, how do you get that engagement with Aina, and turn it into a digital platform, and just being able to see, I come from educators that are parents, and just being able to see what they've been doing, and you know, trying to get back engaged with our culture and Aina, and having, you know, that social connection again. So just, yeah, wanted to give a mahalo out to Kumu. Mahalo.
Right on. We do need to start wrapping it up, and I mahalo you folks for that. I can probably speak on behalf of every single kumu to let you know that we miss the kids too. We miss being in that classroom and being right there with you folks. So, so just know that the feeling is mutual, but it'll soon pass. It'll soon pass, and we'll be back to being able to do just that. I wish we could continue, because this is far more entertaining and far more educational than both the last two debates that happened on television. So unfortunately, we cannot. So as we close tonight, let's hear a closing statement from each of you. And in one sentence, why do you think it is important for our people in your generation to be civically engaged? And if you want to go off of what I mentioned the other day when we were rehearsing, when I asked you, what is your vision? Remember when I asked you, what is your vision and what is your dream for our Lāhui or our Aina? If you want to branch into that too, it's fall break, we can handle. So go ahead. So one sentence, why do you think it is important for our people, or your people in your generation, to be civically engaged? Kaipo, I'll let you call out our haumana one at a time.
All right, let's start off with Aipono Kamoku.
Mahalo, ka poe a pau no ka hola he ana mai. O ki ngai mea koi o i hoi ko ka mo kala. He momi maka mai no hoi. O ke ola na ia o ko ka Lāhui Hawai, mana hana pono no ko lelo no ka Aina no ka Lāhui. Our culture is our beautiful treasure here in Hawaii, and it's important that we perpetuate our culture for through voting, through civil engagement, through youth leadership, for the well-being of our language, for our land, and for our people. Mahalo.
Yeah,
Mahalo. All right, Hema, Komanava, in one sentence, what do you think is important for people in your generation to be civically engaged?
Kind of using a metaphor, we are the woke bud. We must not let ourselves be snipped early, lest our opportunities fall through our fingers like sand and be washed away by the tide. If we let ourselves go and we do not engage in the things that surround us, the systems that control us, above us, below, between, we will be pulled under. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui, Hema. Le'ohu, Komanava.
So civil participation allows us as Po'e of Hawaii to voice our concerns and opinions, and choose leaders that we deem worthy to enact the things that we want to see in our Aina and our communities.
Mahalo nui, Mahina.
We've reached a point in our lives where it is now our future being bargained for, and consequentially, the voice of this generation has reached a deafening roar. What purpose will you put to that roar? How will you strengthen it? How will you find solutions with it and aid in the movement of our people towards a better future?
Mahalo nui, Mahina. Next up, can we have Sophia S.?
It is our choices that dictate whether our generation lives by our own design or by someone else's default. And as youth leaders, it is our kuleana to make proper and just decisions for the betterment of our community, for ourselves, and for the next generations to come.
Mahalo nui, Sophia. And then we're going to go to Sophia P.
I think it's never been more important or more pressing that we all become educated advocates, and that this is what's going to help us to become a healthy Hawaiian community.
Mahalo nui, Sophia. Next up, we have Noah. Noah, go ahead.
I just want to say that we need to be civically engaged, okay? Allowing us to become civically engaged, whether that's voting, whether that's running for office, will wake up the people of Hawaii, okay? I don't care what political party you're from, okay? If you immerse into the Hawaiian culture or not, okay? Becoming civically engaged will wake the minds of others and yourself and help you find you. I'm gonna use a quote from Rick Blangiardi. Becoming civically engaged is about you, okay? And if we all become civically engaged, we all have this dream and vision for Hawaii, okay? My dream and vision for Hawaii is a coexistent, multicultural society, religion, culture, language, learning, points of view, economics, ways of life, all coexist on such a really weird rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They literally just sprinkled a bunch of little dust and boom, that's Hawaii. And Hawaii is so special. And we can't forget that, okay? We can't allow just social media to dictate. Yeah, social media allows us to become aware, okay? But the higher level of awareness becomes realized by becoming civically engaged. That's all I gotta say.
The immortal words of Antipua Case, Oya i'o. Okay, we're gonna move on to Genesis. Genesis, go ahead.
I feel we need to be engaged because if we don't speak up, others will make the decision for us and leave us with no say. And to me, I feel that's wrong.
And closing us out, go ahead, Maui.
We need to be civilly engaged because our mana'o counts. Our mana'o can help. Our mana'o can help pai and ho'ulu Ka Lāhui. And so with that, I'd like to end with this quote or this Hawaiian proverb, "Auhe hana nui ke alu ia." No task too big when done together by all. And so we have to work together in unity, no matter if you're a haumana, if you're a makua, if you're a kupuna, we need to work all together to holomua or ho'okele kia va'a ki alapono. Mahalo.
Wow, mahalo nui, you folks. You know, you all put it very succinctly and exactly, I think, where some of our leaders in our highest positions really should focus on those very things. Working together, loving each other, respecting each other, giving respect to get respect. You said all the things that I think a lot of people, as they get older and get into those positions, tend to forget. Yeah, and so that's why it is super important to go out and vote. That brings us to a close this evening. We probably should have started earlier. We could have just gone over everybody else, took over the whole airwaves. We should have just did it from 6 o'clock this evening. But just a couple of announcements. We're pleased to announce the release of a very special Kanaeokana product toolkit that we are calling the Koho Kit. Koho, of course, means to vote. That allows you to encourage civic engagement from the comfort of your own computer, if you have one. Noah has one, but other people don't.
And you know what this includes? Includes is voter educational material and a koho kako themed Zoom backgrounds and Facebook profile frames. If you actually look around in this Zoom, yeah, these backgrounds that our haumana have. You know, I'm with Sophia. Yeah, Sophia asked because putting my background wasn't working, but I like your Hi Hawaii. So those are the backgrounds that are actually included in those kits. And e koho kako means let's decide or let's vote. So e koho kako.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Kaipo mentioned, Zoom backgrounds are there. You can head over to kanaeokana.net/kohokit. And that will be made available to you. The link will be made available to you as well. Okay, in the text of the live stream, that's where you'll find that link.
And we do want to just remind everybody who's watching out there in the Kaiaulu, the Lehu, that October 27th is when you should have your ballot in the mail by. So You should be starting to get your balota inside the mail. So make sure you take them, you fill them out, and you have it in before October 27th.
Yep, absolutely. Visit the Office of Elections website at elections.hawaii.gov for complete information about how to vote and how to make your voice heard. So on that note, I want to first mahalo so much, first and foremost, the haumana. Your folks, mana'o is more important than I think you could ever imagine. Your voice is more powerful than I think you could ever know. So continue to be that voice that's going to help propel our generations and the generations to come, and moreover, to propel our people into a great future, despite the fact that we end up with Corona, COVID-40 or whatever. Okay, you guys are going to be the future. That's what you need to do is help perpetuate that. So our partner organizations we have here are Kanaeokana, CNHA, OHA, KHON, Kamehameha Schools, Vai Collective, Oiwi TV, and of course, our haumana.
Mahalo nui, mahalo nui. You know, somebody said it earlier that you guys have gone through, you feel like you have went through your own sort of renaissance in this day and age, yeah? And the difference between this renaissance and the renaissance that we had before is that you are building it on the backs of all of your kupuna who came before you. We're talking in the 60s to the 70s to the 80s. You have schools that teach Olelo Hawaii. You have tests that are made to accommodate Olelo Hawaii. And you have the culture, you have the mo'omeheu prevalent in the Pai'aina. And so just listening to all of you guys here today, we want to just say mahalo for your mana'o, mahalo for sharing your opinions, mahalo for conducting yourselves in a manner that is indicative of future leaders, you know, rooted in mutual respect and mutual cooperation. So mahalo nui to all of you, all the haumana, a big ho'omai ka'i to all of your kumu, because I'm sure they're watching you and they're real proud of all of you right now. And mahalo to all of the viewers out there who are watching us on Facebook and all of the other mainstreams. Mahalo nui, mahalo piha, mahalo no.
Absolutely. ʻŌpio Hawaiian folks, take good care. Enjoy the rest of your fall break. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I forgot who mentioned it earlier, but love on your family. Maui, I think Maui said that, love on your family, because that's important. Heyo.
So we should end it with a KHON 2 shaka, yeah? So everybody just stare at camera, go.
Boom, 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 boom. Is that how it goes? No, that's off key.
I'm not too sure. Not too sure.